the Rowdy Live All Star Special on this Tuesday evening, July 9th, 2019. Yes, we are here as right now going on is the Major League Baseball All Star Game. Thanks to everyone who wanted to tune in to catch this side by side with us. Hopefully we're going to be a bit more easier to listen to than Joe Buck. Never really disliked that guy, but some people seem to not like him for one reason or another. Of course, we are live right here from the Chicken Fried Nation of Dallas-Fort Worth, but also coming in live from the nation's capital, we've got the host of the DukeCT Lounge, Charles Thomas, also joining us. Welcome once again to Rowdy Live, Duke. And I wonder if we might still have some audio issues here. Oh boy, give me just a moment here. We may be having technical difficulties, which is not... yeah, we get... Okay, you're kind of breaking out in and out a bit here for some reason. I'm gonna... Let me see here. I know that the, I know, I've got mic issue. I've got my mics going on stream. You're just barely freaking out. I'm gonna try and call you back in. I'm gonna hang up and try to call back in and see. Hopefully, that's gonna make a difference. It may not. We may have some problems we're gonna have to find a way to deal with. But hold on one moment here. I'm gonna close this thing out and try to call you back up again. So sorry about this, everyone. Live, professional, and all that. Give me a moment, and we're gonna try this again. We're dialing in to, of course, try to get Charles Thomas of the DukeCT Lounge. And yes, I see you now, okay? Hopefully it's gonna work here, because we've got a lot to talk about here. I was hoping to have a guy in. This, of course, is the first time I've tried live streaming during a sporting event. The last time was like the season opener of the Premier League for Arsenal's first game. That did not go well at all, and I think a big reason for it was I did not have a partner to talk alongside. So hopefully everything's working here.
Some stuff here.
Oh, good. Nah, we got some. Definitely got problems. Oh boy, this is not good. We got. You're just coming in. You're just coming in and out of bits at a time now, and I'm not sure what the issue is. So this is gonna be a piece of work here. Oh boy. I'm gonna think about. I don't know if it's going to work here, but I'm gonna see if we can switch over to Skype, if that's okay. I think we might try that. I'm gonna hang up here and try to switch over to the Skype and see if that's gonna be any...
Whoa.
You there?
Oh boy.
You there?
Rowdy, you're all over the place.
Yeah.
Just like...
Yeah, I know. I think you are as well. That's kind of the problem. Like I said, I don't know if it's... Oh, I'm getting you now here. I mean, at least for the time being.
Well,
it's working. Okay, I'm getting you so far right now. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get this thing to work. But like I said, we're doing this alongside the Major League Baseball All Star Game. We've hit the midway point of the season. For any of you who are just tuning in because I hyped this on the sports line. In fact, let me bring up the chat as well. See if anyone out here. I'm going to bring up the Twitch chat as well. I forgot to pop that up. But yeah, this is another one of the first sports-themed live streams we try to do. For those of you who probably tuned in mostly for my gaming in the past, hopefully we might get to that later on. Might be some baseball-themed games later on. But definitely a lot to talk about so far as we get this game. They'll be taking the field hopefully very shortly, but the two of us could probably have a lot to talk about it this season, especially with our respective teams. Of course. Oh,
yeah.
Definitely, your guys up there in the Capitol, the Washington Nationals. I'm going to checking the standings here. Like, for one thing, I like to think that the Nationals so far, for the most part, seem to have been exceeding expectations for the most part because you guys, of course, the big news was over the offseason. You lost Bryce Harper as the Phillies were the ones that ended up giving him the dump truck full of money to come over there. But so far, as we hit the break, I think I double-checked this to see it, to go back over here in the National League East standings, you actually have overtaken the Phillies by a half game in the National League East. And oh, by the way, Bryce Harper isn't an All-Star this year.
Oh, yes.
However, you guys are still both of you are at least 6 games behind Atlanta for first place. So no one's really bragging as of right now, but
find it. Actually, saying this. But he's not even.
Yeah, I don't think this is gonna work. I'm gonna have to switch over to Skype, and hopefully that's gonna work better. My apologies for this.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. All right, let's go back to Skype.
Yeah. Terribly sorry for this interruption, people. I'm gonna try to see if I can get Skype to work right now. We're having a lot of technical issues here, as maybe I should have expected. While we're waiting on this, I do want to remind you guys, one way or another, regardless of whether we can get this thing to work, we will be going until about maximum of 10 p.m. Central Time here on Rowdy Live, at which point we'll be switching over to Radio Dead Air. As I mentioned, may have mentioned this, normally Radio Dead Air, hosted by Nash Bozard. I'm gonna bring him up here. Normally holds on Monday nights, but Nash posted on Twitter yesterday that he was just really too physically drained, and had to had to delay his show for a moment or so, for a day. So now, unfortunately, he's going to be going on the air in about a little less than an hour from now. We'll be switching over there about 10 p.m. in order to make sure everyone can catch What the F is Wrong with You live on time. Encourage everyone to switch over there whenever we do. Let's see if I can try to call him up here now. He's not available yet. I'll try it back in a moment. It's just so professional here, people. But we're trying to wait until hopefully we can get here. Okay. Let me send him a Twitter message. See if we. Okay, one moment. I'm terribly sorry for all of this, everybody. So waiting to get a green light from him on Skype. This is why I don't have 50 followers, people. And I need it to get affiliation here on Twitch. Unfortunately, yeah, but yeah. Oh, now we're in the green here. That's the other thing I was hoping to use this live stream for, was that I think I need 50 followers to become an affiliate, a Twitch affiliate, at which point I can start uploading videos again. If you're still tuning in and seen only one video up that's been uploaded to my Twitch channel, one reason I haven't uploaded them, which I wanted to do recently, is hoping to is apparently Twitch changed its policies, and now you have to be an affiliate in order to upload videos. I looked over what the guidelines were for becoming an affiliate. Some I might be following, some I might not, but I know one I need to get is at 50 followers. Last I checked, I'm at 40. So I'm hoping this live stream can go well in order to start. I'm going to try to call him up again. Now I've got a green. Now I've got a green. So hold on. Okay, I'm gonna try again.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
I've tried to get Skype on the computer, but it's not working because, well, yeah.
Well, hopefully everything is going to be okay now. We found a way to just burn off the first 15 minutes of this podcast,
well, hey,
of this live stream.
It happens.
Yeah.
Technology, man.
But
so it's always happens.
Like I said, well, in the meantime, it looks like the All Stars are just getting ready to take the field. Anyone who's watching, like I said, get tuned into the Fox broadcast on your local Fox affiliate. We're not obviously going to be transmitting any portion of the game here on the stream, but anybody who's tuned in, hopefully glad that you have chosen to listen to us. Hopefully we'll be more entertaining than the ones, as they've just now taken the field, and it is Justin Verlander of the Astros starting for the National League, and that's probably going to cause a lot of stomachs to churn from the Rangers fans up here.
Sorry. Yeah. Just, you know. Well, your stream's acting a little wonky a bit. Just, you know.
Well, I'm hearing from you so far so good, and I'm just hoping it's going to
And
work
I
out.
think this stream is, maybe it's just my computer. Just, I don't know, the stream is acting a little wonky. I can't really see, it's like it's frozen, so.
Well, I'm hearing you just fine. Hopefully, if you're hearing me.
It's, let me just, hold on. Let me just see something right quick. All right. This is just fun, by the way.
Yeah.
This is fun.
It's interesting. I'm hearing you now perfectly, and now you're having trouble hearing me. This is.
No, I hear you perfectly. Everything's going fine, but I think let me just, let me exit out here. Just gonna try to, maybe it's my computer or something. Let me just try to get something right quick or something like that. Let me try it here, because it looks like everything is just going to like, let me see if everything's working here. Or it's just my PC, because it's my PC, I think. I don't know. It just seems like everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. And it's not my fault this time.
Yeah.
But you know what? We will power through this, people. Do not worry. We will power through this because we are professional.
Yeah. I hesitate to use that term so much, but the good news is I am hearing you just fine. It seems like for the most part you seem to be hearing me. So if it's going through on my end, at least that's the most that matters. So let's go and put it in. As they get ready for the first at bat here, like I said, I wanted to give you the floor first to talk about just what the situation is like up there in D.C. with the fact that, look, the Nationals, so far, like I said, they have overtaken at least that Phillies team that poached away their best player over the off-season. They had, let's see, currently Washington, 47-42, 5 games over 500, a half game
42.
a half game over the Phillies, in the National League East, but still 6 games back of the Atlanta Braves. What's like the general mindset of people there as far as how well the Nationals have done so far?
So people I talk to and listen and such is that surprise at the bottom. There was like I think let me just take a look at the Nats standings at least for around the last couple like before this hot streak. They weren't good. They March I don't think they April they were, but then it started.
And we seem to be breaking him up with him again. Unfortunately, we were so close to hoping this thing was going to work. You there? Hello? Oh, crap. I'm gonna clear out some windows here, because now I'm not hearing you at all, Duke. Have you hung up and see what's going on here? You there?
You hear me? Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Let me just get back to the point.
Yes.
In
Absolutely.
May, they weren't good. They were pretty much getting shellacked. The bullpen was like one of the worst bullpens in baseball, the Nationals. And they weren't, they were just like, they just did not perform well. They were just you look back at the team like, man, I don't think they're going to mount and make the postseason. I thought they looked like they're going to tank the entire season. But for whatever reason, they just, started to win. I think it's because Davey Martinez, I don't know, man. He did one hell of a job managing and, coaching, saying, hey, just relax, take it one day at a time. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about anything else. Focus and such. And they started playing within themselves. The pitching got better. The bats, which honestly, the offense was never an issue. They always, if you look back at the standings and such, even when the games they lost for the most part, they still, they were, producing. For the most part, they did produce. It was because of the pitching that hurt them. And when you look at now, the pitching is not only returned, but also the hitting. Everything was in sync for the most part. Things were in sync.
And mostly, and meanwhile, down over there in Philly, I think what people I'm hearing, people are almost saying it's just only a matter of time before Gabe Kapler may be shown the door as manager there with some of his. Like, I remember one guy who apparently has connections to the Phillies. He posted like one of their starting lineups one game, and they had Bryce Harper batting leadoff. I'm looking at stuff like that and saying, what are they doing over there in the city of brotherly shove?
They are. I don't know what it is like. Every year, once in a while. I think I know what was the problem. I had to update. Of course, Windows turned off. It was updating, start, whatever. It seems like there's one team that always seems to implode in situations like that. Every team seems to have it. And Philly, it looks like it's their turn, but it's a halfway point in the season. You look at, for example, the NHL Stanley Cup champions. You look at what they were in such. You look where they were at. They were at the bottom of the league, but they persevered. They do other stuff. They found a disco track and Gloria, and then bam, Stanley Cup.
Well, it's a bit different. Well, I will say, of course, the NHL is a bit different in Major League Baseball. When you're in a situation where you only have to finish 8th place in your conference to get into the postseason, you still have to really, on some levels, be a really good team for an entire season to make the postseason in baseball for the most part. The second wild card in each league has kind of loosened that a bit, but you still got to be better than average to make the postseason in baseball, whereas an average team can get into the postseason in a game like hockey, and then if they're hot at the right time, that type of team that was just average in the regular season might end up winning the playoffs.
Yeah, but I think it's some type of things like you feel like, there's sometimes always things to motivate. And I don't think the Phillies are that there yet. If is the coaching change going to help? I don't know. It might actually hurt in situations. You might be a couple games from a wild card. They're pretty much a half a game about the wild card. But in these situations, it could be like, they completely screw up chemistry.
I'm going to double check.
By the way, American League just got a base hit.
Yeah, leadoff base hit by the American League after Verlander. I'm probably a bit on a delay here because I'm watching via Hulu and stuff, so they're probably just at the commercial break right now. But I know that Verlander shut the National League hitters down in order, leading off the first inning for the American League. And it looks like I'm going to be several minutes delayed here.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, I'm just double checking the wild card standings here. I want to see where you guys are. Where are they? That's just where. Okay, here we go. Good. You're going to the American, looking in the National League. Once they get this reset here. Scrolling down, and right now, Washington and Philadelphia hold the 2 wild card spots in the National League. Believe it or not. So yeah, even with all of the the early season struggles that the Nats had to begin, as you pointed out, and supposedly the question marks of where the Phillies are going. If the season ended today, they would both be in the playoffs. Like I said, even though they both trail Atlanta in the National League East standings by at least 6 games. But so far, they're on the top. Now, of course, it's still a pretty big race here. So we've got 6 clubs in the National League within less than 3 games of a wild card spot. So
yeah, it's going to be a dogfight, especially then again. You look at some of those other teams in divisions, man, it's going to be a real fight to get into the postseason in the National League. I don't know who is going to – I mean, I would say L.A., but the last couple of times they just can't seem to get it, they just seem to can't get past that next championship because, they look so dominant. They look actually something like, okay, this team is the team to beat. But then, it's just like every time they do get into that position, it's like, I don't know.
Yes, the main question is whether or not there's a team that can beat the Dodgers in the National League yet. Especially since you have to wonder if a team in the National League Central can do it, because I got friends who also are Cubs fans, and they've not been happy with how the Cubs have performed, even though the Cubs technically lead the National League Central at this time. But they're doing it only 4 games over 500. Just keep this in mind. Here's how bad the National League Central is. The Rangers right now are in 3rd place in the American League West, 9 games behind the Astros. Their record would lead the National League Central Division.
Well,
that's just how
yeah.
You could call it competitive, or you just could just say that the National League is just mediocre right now. In fact, double check what the full standings of the Central are right now as we reset this, and Cincinnati is in last place in the National League Central. They're only 4.5 games back. That's like I think everyone else that's in last place is out by at least. Actually, the Giants are only 5.5 back of the Dodgers. That's five back in the wild card. So yeah, the Giants are 17.5. Every other division, the last place team is at probably I think at least 14 games back of the Central. Meanwhile, if you look at the game here, we've got a man on second base and everyone's favorite player in Texas, Mike Trout, at bat. They can.
There it is, and 1-run scores. Yeah, I'm watching on television. Oh wait a second, I think that was the third out. Never mind, it's end of the first. So yeah, it's the end of the first. I'm actually watching this on the television.
Yeah.
Yes, the television before it pretty much is going to be, forgotten.
Well, that's gonna tell we're gonna have some fun right now because we see it was a bobbled shortstop. They got I just now getting they got Trout out at first base. Springer went to third, so I'm guessing the next guy's gonna get out. That just to show you what it's like for me. Like I said, I gave up my television, the main television a long time ago. I'm watching via Hulu, which is I might reset my browser after this inning ends, after I see it, and then hopefully see if things will get better. But I guess that's something else to talk about then. Just that kind of shows you how strange the world of television is going right now. You got some people like me that are trying to watch it online, but as a result, we've still got to make more of a delay than everyone else, as far as anyone else goes. Because apparently the streams go more delay than the normal live TV broadcasts. I've still now got this Carlos Santana is at bat here. And it's now at a 2-0 count, but you're saying this guy's going to get put out. Yeah, this is. I wonder if I'm slow here because this is longer than a normal delay that I'm normally getting. Usually it's only about a minute tops.
To be fair, Rowdy, I mean, it's the All Star Game. You don't know what type of insanity that might happen. They might say a naughty word or something.
Yeah. Well, they or about 100 like the Blues did after winning the Cup.
Oof, boy. I just imagine that I just had to censor everything. Like, oh goodness, like their life, their jobs. Like, I can't believe this happened. But I'm like, you know what? I give that a pass. They just won. That team finally won a championship after all the crap and everything else that they went through. But then again, the Capitals won it last year, and they didn't swear that much, other than like that woman, showing her chest out there. But other than that. It was actually pretty nice. It was a pretty nice celebration.
Yeah, I'm with you on.
In fact, funny enough, that whole celebration, there wasn't any type of like in DC. No, there was no flip cars, nothing. It was like they celebrated, and there was one person on the light post or something, and then he said, "Hey, can you climb down?" Oh, that's cool. Okay, he climbed down. That was it. So that was
you're saying it wasn't like Philadelphia?
Oh no. Oh goodness! Now I'm just shudder to think that all 4 sports teams in Philadelphia won their respective championships.
Well, I'll tell you this much: it was also a relatively peaceful celebration here when the Mavericks won the title back in 2011. On the flip side of that, how sad is it they have to go back 8 years to point out the last time we saw a championship here in Dallas, and before that it was like 12 years. Before that, when the Stars won the Cup. And let's not even get started about how close we came to having the Rangers do that same 2011 year. Speaking of which, like I said, would you look at right now, from where things are, would you say the Nationals are going to be buyers or sellers come the end of this month when the trade deadline approaches?
I don't know. I mean, there are some things I think that the Nets need to do. I think they probably need some good relievers and such like that. Beef up the bullpen because I truly believe that it is the bullpen and some defensive, adjustments and such. Because the bullpen has gotten better, but it is just still a work in progress. Because some of those games, I think it needs to be a little bit better. I think. Unless there is a true shake-up. Offensively, they're fine. In fact, I think they're gonna look. They're gonna be talking. They were actually talking to Anthony Rendon, who was an All Star, but he said, "Nah." It's funny. He was going to be an All Star. He was campaigning. He wants to be an All Star. He wants to be an All Star. All this stuff, and then he's like, you know what? Nah, I'm good. Because he's like, I got to say, I got I got to be with my family and such. But I think
Speaking of All Stars, might point out we've already got the first player change already, as Verlander only lasted only one inning, and now they've gone to the Yankees. Masahiro Tanaka is now on the mound for the American League, and he just barely avoided giving up a home run to Cody Bellinger, who just hit a bomb that just hooked foul. So it's still scoreless at this time. And so you bring up the whole thing about whether you have the deadline and stuff, and whether they're going to be buyers and sellers, because I'll give it over to the flip side now. And what things going on here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And I'm going to be the first to say, I'll be the first to admit here, I did not expect the Rangers to be where they are as of right now. Because when they, especially after the way they lost on opening day, I was outright saying this team could lose 110 games. And I stand by my prediction of what I said back then. Could never expected what was going on here. All that credit obviously goes to Chris Woodward and just how he's managed to get so many of these guys to play so much above themselves, and yet I still find myself in a position where I just can't trust this team right now yet. And believe me, I don't know what the fan base is like up there in D.C. Yeah. But I would say that 5 years later, after the big breakup between the Rangers and Nolan Ryan as team president, this fan base is still as divided as ever. That I don't think there's still quite a few of us, and I'm saying us because I'm one in that group. I don't think we can trust this team to ever have. We don't trust John Daniels to put together a successful team that can actually get to the point where they were in 2010 and 2011. And we're dealing with, there's, on the other hand, the other groups, the John Daniels lovers and apologists, as I'll call them, the JDLNAs, about a week ago, they were trumpeting everything about how, we were 10 games over 500, we had control of the second wildcard spot, we're going to prove to everyone that JD is a genius, that he put together this team from the beginning. Then, boom, they go and drop 6 of 8. And then they drop 6, and here's the frustrating thing about this whole thing, is that, so they dropped 6 of 8, going into the last game before the break. So we've got here a fly out here. There's 2 outs now in the second inning for the Nationals. But so they dropped 6 of 8 going into the final game of the season. Mike Minor was scheduled to start the last game of the first half. Minor was, of course, at one time I double-checked, he's still second in the league in best ERA behind a guy from Tampa. His name escapes me right now, but he's an all-star as well. But they, even before that game approached, they suddenly, at the last minute, elected to pull Minor from his last start. Now, they're claiming it's for rest. Because he's supposed to be on pace to throw 230 innings this year. That's a whole other subject that maybe we'll get to later about innings counts and whatnot. But so
I know all about that, Strasburg.
Oh yeah, believe me, that's a whole topic in of itself. But guess the frustrating thing is, like I said, is the fact that they dropped that after they have that losing streak, they dropped their best pitcher, and some people aren't buying the main thing is some people aren't buying the rest claim. They think he's on the trade market. And that's the frustrating thing is that here they've still been in contention for a wild card, and the fact they still might trade their best pitcher so far. And now there was an article in the Star Telegram today suggesting that once he gets healthy, the Rangers will possibly shop Hunter Pence. There's the second of their 3 All-Stars. And for the record, like I said, Rangers have 3 All-Stars in this game. Mike Minor, Hunter Pence, Joey Gallo. For one reason or whatever different reasons, Gallo's the only one who might actually see time in this game. Because because Minor's supposedly being rested, and Hunter's still coming back from his own injury. And believe me, Hunter Pence is one of the few good things I've wanted to watch this team for because, like, throw a shout out right here. I mean, I saw that guy play in college. We went to school together, Hunter Pence and I.
Wow,
by the way,
nice.
at the University of Texas at Arlington. Has some good stories about him on some bus rides I took when he was a player and I was a student broadcaster and whatnot. Ooh, that was safe.
Yeah, that was. I saw that. That's why I was like, ooh, that's safe. I know.
If
But yeah,
use replay of the All Star Game. But anyway, point is, so they drop it. They end up winning the last game. It's being challenged right now, and I think it's going to be overturned. But the Rangers won. This is the frustrating thing is that they won their last game before the break, but they won it in perhaps the worst way possible. I'm going to say this right now because they won it with their best pitcher not starting, and then they won it with Rougned Odor hitting a 3-run bomb in the 11th inning to win it, which probably means that Rougned Odor has bought himself another couple of weeks in the starting lineup when he probably should have been benched a month ago. This is a guy who's batted under the Euchre line for much of this season. This is how frustrating Odor is. I mean, this guy, he'll go 9 to 10 straight games without doing anything, and then he'll go up and hit a 3-run bomb in that game, and it's supposed to buy him some more time. And
that's the question, though. But how do you know he's not heating up or actually starting to play well? That's the real, frustrating thing about this stuff. Because you might trade him or put him on the bench,
but he's
and
got
you might.
He's got no value. I don't think he's got any trade value right now with how he's been playing. They can't send him down to the minors because he's just now this year surpassed the number of years and experience to where he can refuse an assignment to the minor leagues, at which point they'd have to release him and eat up the remainder of his contract. So yeah, and meanwhile you've got a guy in Danny Santana who has been playing great and struggling to get out of the lineup, getting into the lineup, and this is why I keep saying that, and believe me, this is a very contentious issue that I've had with a number of different other Rangers fans with the JDLNA, so I'm saying Daniels is the reason Odor is still in that lineup. You're not going to be able to convince me that the manager for the Rangers, who's actually wearing the jersey, has free reign in calling the shots in this thing. Because this goes back to even when they were winning in because I had stories here, and back in the start of this decade, I made a few connections, made a few friendships with some guys in the media and the radio business and whatnot in this area. And I would read their articles and chat with them about. There was stuff about how back in 2012, John Daniels was in Ron Washington's office all the time when Wash was the manager, getting in his face about the lineup. And in that case was why he was still playing an aging, struggling Michael Young instead of his hot, can't-miss prospect, Jurickson Profar, who, by the way, now is in Oakland. That just shows you how good Profar turned out to be. Profar turned out to be. That's just the frustrating thing about this. One, when they were bullying, JD was trying to force Profar into the lineup and wanted Young out because he was struggling. Now here we are in 2019, Odor's doing worse than Young did in 2012, and he's still in the lineup. Meanwhile, you got the whole situation with Gallo. Here's a guy that first let me say this, Gallo's a great hitter. I think he's a really good power hitter. Don't think he's going to be much more than a number 5 place hitter, but that's still a good component to have. The thing I got is, here's a guy that he came up as a third baseman. But apparently, for one reason or another, they've converted him into an outfielder. He's not a bad outfielder. The fact is, he's been played center field for a number of games this season. Then he got hurt. And people start saying, well, we can't play him in center field anymore. He'll break down and wear down. And now he's back playing center field again. He was in center on Sunday. Meanwhile, they've got just a hole at first base. We haven't gotten any production out of there. And it just begs me question is, you know, you had a guy like Michael Young back in the early days of this decade where he got shifted from position to position year after year to make room for some new guy. Meanwhile, now Gallo says he wants to play outfield. They let him play outfield when they desperately need help in the corner infield positions. And this doesn't even get into and this is just questions I have with the hitter core and where in the lineup is. This has nothing to do. This doesn't even begin to talk about how the situation with the fact that I don't think we haven't been able to get anything reliable outside of our top two starting pitchers. Mike Minor and Lance Lynn have been decent. Minor is second in the league in earned run average. Lynn, I think, is tied for the lead in wins. But after that, it's been a crapshoot at best, and the bullpen cannot get anybody out, it seems, until Sunday night, apparently, on the afternoon. But, man, that was a rant I'm starting to lose some energy on and starting to get a little beat down on. And we still got a little more than 2 hours to go. We're going to pace ourselves and try to get this thing done.
Yeah, that's true.
We're in the bottom of the second inning now.
And there it is. And look, we have Kershaw.
Yeah.
And at least, hopefully he won't be, maybe we'll get lucky. He'll have a nice little, he'll look at he gets a home run and you have that like little face and such he makes, which is, so depressing and sad. Because, he's really good, but I'm like, I don't know what is, like I say, I don't know what it is with Los Angeles. I don't know. They have built up that team to actually win, to become a dynasty. They did the same thing what the Yankees did, right? They put all this money and all this time and effort and such, and they just can't seem to get it done. I don't know how that just works. Then again, I have the Redskins and Dan Snyder throwing money at every single thing, and that still doesn't work. I don't know.
And then on the flip side, you got over here in Dallas, people are getting on Mark Cuban's ass for somehow not doing enough to lure in players to the Mavericks. That's a whole issue we might get into in just a bit as well, because we might change focus.
Yeah, that's because ownership and money and how to do it. Personally, if you want to, it's all about structure, especially with teams like, with teams, you have to have the structure and the foundation. If you can have every type of you can have anybody, play millions and millions of dollars, all the type of stuff. But if you don't have a good sound foundation, you don't have good management, you don't have a good general manager, coach, or whatever, it doesn't matter. You might get a good playoff run or two, but you're not going to do anything substantial.
I do want to take a moment because I haven't been checking the chat at the moment, but I do want to say hi to Alternavision and James Faraci. I don't remember where you guys typed in. I apologize for missing your message. But if you're still on the stream here, yeah, we have been expecting some technical issues, but hopefully everything's good. If you guys are still here, glad to have you on board here. Like I said, we're watching Chris Lee Moore, Rowdy C, and DukeCT, Charles Thomas, covering the Rowdy Live All Star Special as we watch the MLB All Star Game live from Cleveland. I think this is the first time I've ever personally seen an All Star Game take place at the same stadium for a second time. Because the last time there was in this exact same ballpark back in 1997, believe it or not. Didn't think I'd live to see the day we will be back in another ballpark, in the same ballpark again anytime soon.
Yeah.
May recall that was the game in which that was the big hometown hero game in which Sandy Alomar pinch hit and hit the game-winning home run in the 7th inning, which was one overall, which at least I would say stated the attitudes of Cleveland fans who did not like the fact that he had to stay on the bench and did not get voted in as a starter ahead of who was that guy again? Oh yeah, Pudge Rodriguez was probably the greatest catcher of his time and maybe of all time. You'll never hear me say otherwise on that. But that was a fun time, just watching that. It's how Pudge still got the start, but the Cleveland crowd got their little moment seeing Sandy Alomar hit the winning home run in that game. But
Well, to be fair, Cleveland has not had much positive sports moments in their, well, history. So it's nice seeing them. And nice. I think that's a double, and I think we're gonna finally see someone score. And yes, and there it is. As AL takes I believe it was because of the Astros. Bergman just scored. And
Bregman got on via an error by the third baseman on the National League, and now I guess it was his own teammate that ends up joining him because I've got Brantley on.
Mm-hmm. Those Astros are really, really good. I think they could. I think they could actually beat LA. If they actually make the World Series again.
We could talk a lot about, and believe me, that is angering and frustrating so many people here in DFW that, now I'm seeing the double off the wall in left center field. It's probably going to score Bregman all the way. Yeah, meanwhile, James Ferrati's trying to make the Abbott and Costello, who's on first gag here in the chat there. But believe me, it's just grinding people's gears here in DFW that 2 years ago, the Astros accomplished what the Rangers were not able to and won that World Series. And just the fact, my Twitter feed is still loaded with people complaining about the supposed arrogance of Houston Astros fans. But I'm here and saying, you know what? They got the job done. We were not able to get it done in 2011, and I still don't. And this is someone who refuses to blame Nelson Cruz for that play. And Ron Washington,
he got you there.
Nelson Cruz almost single-handedly got us there with his 6 home runs in the ALCS. And then you want to talk about that even so, in the aftermath of that World Series, Ron Washington stepped up and said, "Look, it was my fault. We were not in a no doubles defense on that last play. We should have been in a no doubles defense with the time run on first base at the time. It was my fault. I give Ron Washington a lot of credit for at least admitting the mistake. Cruz did the best job he could on that play, and there are still people just in this area who just almost never going to forgive him in that area. I do want to thank Alternavision for pointing out that apparently we are having some freezing issues on the video, but the audio is still in good condition. Hopefully things are going to settle down. Hopefully things are going to settle down in that area. So thanks to you guys for staying tuned in on here. Meanwhile, like I said, we've got a 1-0 lead for the American League now as we've ended the first inning. Looks like.
And by the way, I'm going to just see some of the Yankees play. I know the Yankees have let's be honest, everyone hates the Yankees inside. To me, I don't like them. You don't like them. Heck, your best moment is actually striking out. Was it the pitcher who struck out Alex Rodriguez?
While he's in the Yankees? If I say, you go back to that 2010 World Series, and I said, you were to poll Rangers fans, how would you want that World Series, how that American League's championship series with the Yankees to end? You get 2 choices: walk-off home run off Mariano Rivera or strike out A-Rod. The vote will pretty much be unanimous: strike out A-Rod. And then you don't even get that. You don't just get that. You get him to look at strike 3. That was the way I think every single Rangers fan wanted to see that end.
Well, yeah, but then again, I don't really fault A-Rod. I mean, hey, pay him over $250 million, but crap, we have to fill out the rest of the team. Oh.
And James is bringing out here the New York sports teams aren't doing very good either. But hey, your Yankees are in first place in the American League East, James. So you've at least got that. Yeah, I know.
Well, at least you're not the Orioles, which I just watched the record. I was like, oh boy. And I thought the Mets were terrible, which, you want to talk about the Mets.
Baltimore currently 30 and a half games out of first place in the
27 wins. Let me just check that again.
They're 23 games back of a wild card spot. at this exact moment. I mean, the Mets, they're not even in last place in their division. They're they're 6 games up on the Miami Marlins to stay out of the National League East cellar. So
yeah. Let me just look again. It's 27 victories for the Orioles. I'm like, what just happened? I'm like, what happened to that team? I don't know what it is. They just completely just imploded. I grew up before the National came. I was an Orioles. I still have a love for the Orioles. I love Camden Yards. I went there, lots of times as a kid and all that stuff. And I'm like, what happened to that team? They had some good stuff on the boat, so Walter, but then it's just.
Well, look at it this way. They're not that much worse than Detroit, which only has 28 wins currently on the season. Now I'm checking what else. Like everyone else in baseball, I think, has more than 30 wins still on the season so far. So yeah, Detroit and Baltimore are just really head and shoulders below everyone else at this point in time. And
and by the way, I'm looking at the this thing called the. Thank goodness phones actually improved over the years. I'm looking at my computer is slowly getting back up. But yeah, this is supposedly the article, The Ringer. It says the 2019 Orioles might be the 2017 Yankees of awful. They saying that this might be the absolute worst baseball team of all time, which is. Wow, that's a statement.
Well,
that is huge statement.
Might as well bring this up again. The record, of course, is 120 losses from the 1961 expansion New York Mets. Was it 1962? Was it the New York Mets' first ever year of existence, when they went 40-120 for the season? And again, that was. The only that of course they had the excuse of being an expansion team. I think the one team everyone else then compares it to is I think it was the 54 or 53 Pirates that were probably as bad as then, or the Cleveland team from all the way back in 1899 that had some really bad seasons right now. But yeah, right now it's neck and neck between Detroit and Baltimore. And like, I remember back in 2003 it was that the Tigers came very close to tying that New York Mets record. And maybe there's the fact that they weren't an expansion team. Maybe that Tigers team was the worst of all time. Is this Baltimore team capable of maybe surpassing them? I'm trying to figure. Let me see if I can bring up some other numbers here.
That's, to me, is a true. I don't know what it is. What happened to the Orioles again? Because you look at the history of it, Cal Ripken, the Iron Man. I grew up watching and just seeing how he, played these. Heck, they were actually pretty decent. They weren't terrible, but actually pretty good. They actually had a nice playoff push once upon a time, and I understand teams have their ups and downs, but what in the world is going on in ownership, management, and everything else in between?
Yeah,
that is a failure in every aspect, from players to ownership, management. Everyone is completely just saying, well, screw it, who cares? We're just gonna wait until we're just gonna sit here and just wait until next year. Here's
all I need to know is that Dylan Bundy scheduled to pitch the first game after the break for the Orioles, which you would expect him to be your number one guy. He's got a 4-10 record on the year. Now I'm
reminded of urinating Street's video.
Yeah.
Of like how they just completely get shellacked. It was like last year too. I think it was like they're like, what? I was like, they just the pitching was just terrible.
Yeah, he's
was
got a
so
4. Right now, on the year, his ERA is 4.65, and I'm almost willing to bet that's still one of the better numbers for the Orioles pitching staff. Let's go back here to the total bat pitching numbers lines here. Well, they've got. I'm trying to figure out here. Who else do we got here? Probably their best pitcher is the reliever Justin Means. I hope I got his first name right. But he's their all-star on the year. It's John Means. John Means, the lone all-star for the Baltimore Orioles. But like I said, your number one starting pitcher. I'll give you this much. Like I said, I've harped on this Rangers team for much of the year, and just something in my gut makes me not want to believe in them. But who could have thought they'd have a guy in Mike Minor who's got the second best ERA in the entire American League, that's almost unheard of here in Texas. Because let me tell you this, because everyone, even back in after 2010 and 2011, and this is what kind of frustrates me as well about, of course, everything that's going on with Texas, is that everyone's saying that they never get good pitching here in Texas because the heat is always going to wear everyone down. But
yes, because DC right now is it's 40 degrees right now in DC. Meanwhile, Max Scherzer is basically with a broken nose and a busted eye, still striking out folks. And under over 100, over 90 degree heat. What is your excuse, Texas?
Yeah, everyone is. You guys still, are you in risk of everything washing away right now there in DC? From what I've heard.
Well, we're here mostly. I'm still fine. But yeah, I'm when I saw that type of stuff, and I was like, no, man, this can't be. That is the most dumbest thing, because summer is always been hot. Texas has always had heat and hot and everything else, and I'm like, wait. You realize that other players and other teams have to pitch in hot weather too, right?
Yeah.
And
the thing is, like I said, they managed to get to the World Series in 2010 and 2011. The next 2 years after that, they drew 3 million in attendance in, of course, 2012 and 2013. So the two biggest arguments against playing outside should have been null and void after that they'll never draw very many fans, the fans will stay away because of the heat, and then the players will always melt and never succeed in the postseason back then. And now here we are, we've got a team that just is being put together through spit and baling wire, somehow still being in contention. You've got one pitcher that's got one of the best ERAs in the league, another that's leading the league in wins, and it's going on in the last season before they move into a roofed country club next year, and everyone's still just all they want to talk about just, oh, how great is it going to be to finally be able to watch baseball in comfort. Yeah, good luck trying to afford it, by the way, with what they're going to cost.
And if the team's terrible, which I don't want to be mean, but it looks like this might be oh, this team's going to be really good. That type of flukish run that is just look, they, going back to the NHL again, like the New Jersey Devils had, they're oh, this looks really good, but then this year it just totally looked terrible and basically sucked. It's just it could just be a mirage.
Oh, and yeah, I'm buying you to tell you this, that one, if in 2 years after that place opens, they don't have a good team there, one, you're not seeing any much better attendance, and two, I'm almost willing to bet you're not going to see a lot more resources put into the team on the field, because I'm telling you right now, I give you 2-3 years after that place opens, and Bob and Ray are going to be looking to cash out. I am making this declaration right now. This whole thing has been their plan to inflate the value of the club so they can sell it eventually. As now we have Jacob deGrom on the hill for the National League as we go to the bottom of the third.
The Mets. Oh, geez Louise. Oh,
well,
by the way,
they got the Mets All Star out of the way quickly enough, and then they keep got for.
All right, I've got to switch up to the PC right now since it's back up and everything. I'm gonna switch up to here, so I'll be right back.
Okay, sure thing. We're gonna we might take a break then, just a moment, as DukeCT switches back on to his old PC system. We'll be right back on the Rowdy Live All Star Special. But yeah, thanks everyone here for tuning in, as we're just like waiting for DukeCT to switch back over to his regular full-time computer. I'd show some commercials right now if anybody cared enough to advertise. But I'm not even as good as Nash, who's gotten a lot of shout-outs that he can use. Maybe one day I can get this thing going up. Again, just want to point out, I'm sure you guys are already following me on here on Twitch. If you can get anyone else to officially follow me, we'll look in there. Right now. And I think we're back here. DukeCT is back here.
I'm back.
Okay, good.
Oh,
so we're back here. Yeah,
What's up?
yeah. I think I can hear you again. Hopefully, DukeCT back here on the Rowdy Live All Star Special.
Woo!
Inning.
Again, I want to, again, even though it's mostly not my fault, I apologize because of the technology issues and such. So again, hopefully this will not be a complete and total, the whole thing won't be, it's not like, oh, this is the worst thing ever, but it looks like everything is working out perfectly.
In the meantime, like we said, Jacob, the National League apparently is trying to get the Mets All-Star, get some time in as quickly as possible, as Jacob DeGrom is on the hill for the National League. It looks like no one's going to pitch more than an inning in this game. And yet we still won't see Mike Minor on the hill for the Mets. And they'll say this much. So apparently, I decided to check on the Mets here, because that seems to be another team that everyone wants to make fun of all the time.
It is. I don't think it's possible, but I just thought I would call it a dumpster fire or something. But didn't they one of their one of those things caught fire during City Field last year? I feel like it's like that fire. That fire, it just continues to spread, and I'm just like, I'm looking at what is going on with their management.
Here's the thing. What just amazes me is, to hear people talk about the New York Mets, you just wouldn't think that they were in the World Series just 4 years ago.
Yeah, I'm just like, they were a World Series team. They looked so competent. They were like really good, and then, they missed the wild card stuff. Okay, that happens. Hangover. Okay, they still have a good core, and then 2016. Then 2017, 18, and it's just like there's like, you ever think there's like no bottom? And it's like, well, we're gonna keep going down there. Like the ride never ends. And I don't know what else. I stress to say it can't get any worse, because the Mets next week happens. It is something you will be gobsmacked to be of.
Well,
it's like
here's the least we can say about Jacob DeGrom. We said it was their All-Star for this year. He's got a 4-7 record, but his ERA 3.27, not that bad. Meanwhile, Jason Vargas is slated to pitch their first game after the break. He's 3-4, but again, the ERA not terrible at 3.77. This looks like they've got some talent, at least as far as pitching is going. But again, yeah, they're like something double. Where's the? I had the MLB standings up here, but they're in 4th in the National League East. That much I do remember. They're at waiting for it to come back up.
But also supposedly, if you haven't heard today, this was like actually, I believe it was a couple days ago. It's reports that the Mets general manager, after the loss to the Philadelphia Phillies, he was just was pissed off that the DeGrom start had been wasted, picked up a chair and threw it and told Callaway to conduct his like effing press conference.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he is mad. And part of me is like, you're the general manager and this is the roster, but also here's the thing though, this is I think this is his first go around as the Mets general manager. And I'm like, maybe he's just really frustrated with the team that he had no part of constructing. And
yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say this much. Part of me kind of respects that the general manager would have that much type of passion. I don't think at one point during the disaster fire that was the 2014 season, you ever saw John Daniels get that frustrated at how piss poor the Rangers played that whole season. Or to say nothing about them going through what they did last year.
Oh yeah, and the learners and such like that. I think they're just too old to do something like that. They're just stare at you menacingly and then just make you just go crawl into a corner. But yeah, it's this stuff. I was like, wow, it's like the dude is just angry. But again, this is his first year of being a general manager, being in the front office, and this team is not constructed. By his, he's not constructed, and people are going to look to him and say, "Oh, it's your fault." Like, I just got here, and he's like, and he has this huge mess to clean up, and he doesn't want to trade their stars. He wants to make pillars. He wants to make them, something like, okay, this is the rough part now. We're going to get some some good draft picks later on, and build up a good team that, maybe not a World Series team because crazy things happen. But something that say, hey, at least the team is watchable, fun, and maybe get a playoff spot once. Get into playoffs, and who knows, goes into the postseason.
And I'll tell you this much: that would probably make them. They'll probably tell people tell the now 20 remaining fans of the Miami Marlins look and said, hey, at least the Mets management cares in that regard. They're not going to blow their team up for the 23rd time. Like our club's done over and over again.
And that team has won 2 World Series and their whole lifespan. And they blew up multiple times. And you know what? It's a shame. And people, you know what? They really shouldn't have. If they had a choice, I bet it to you, the people in Miami fans had a choice. They would not have hired. I think they would not want to have Derek Jeter as the owner. They would have probably had, the other guy who wanted to really reinvest in the community and such. But I think they just got, that stars in their eyes and such. Like, we got Derek Jeter. He's going to bring it. And then next year
the ironic thing about that I keep talking about is you look back about even 5 years ago, especially around 2013, 2014. You probably think about how beloved of a person and a player Derek Jeter was across the planet. But on the flip side, how utterly despised his Yankees teammate by the name of Alex Rodriguez was. Now here we are in 2019, and it's almost completely flip-flopped. You've got A-Rod here, who's a member of the Fox broadcast team, actually sounds halfway intelligent on these broadcasts. Like, people starting to realize, okay, yeah, maybe he made a mistake with the drugs and all that, but the guy's clearly very intelligent. He's very personable. He knows what he's talking about more often than not. And then you look at Jeter and how he just completely burned down another the Miami Marlins for the 10th time in their history. It's just amazing how those two's public images have almost completely reversed. Although A-Rod's still always going to be forever ridiculed and hated here in Texas. That much I know.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like me and Tony Romo. I was like, man, he's so nice, but Cowboys fan, Redskin fan and such. And I'm like, hearing him in the CBS, I'm like, dang, this dude gets it, and he's quick, he's funny, he's like, bing, 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 bang, bam, boom, and everything else. I was like, why did I hate him again all those years?
I will say this, how frustrating is it for you guys in the Northeast that how many Cowboys ex-players end up getting broadcasting opportunities? Because it seems like they all get them now. It's
personality. I think that's what it is. I will say this about Jerry Jones. He can figure out. He can get players who have personality. I'll say that. They all have at least. They might have some spotty stuff, but they have personality. Not saying Washington doesn't have any personality. Oh, Fred Smoot and Love Boat. But anyway, let's get back to the baseball game, which is
yeah. And I was about to bring up they've got the guy from the Chicago White Sox is up on the mound now for the American League. I remember to bring up this guy's name. It's Giolito, I believe. I'm trying to bring up the White Sox page right now. White Sox actually aren't doing that badly. If you look at where they once had been at one time, it's Lucas Giolito. Lucas Giolito of the White Sox on the mound now for the American League. His team, the White Sox, like I said, only 2 games under 500, as he apparently gets them out of that inning. But which is that's probably better than what a lot of people were expecting the Southsiders to do at this point in time in this game. See where they are in the standings here. My browser is taking a long time
probably
to reload.
It's weird, but yeah. Let's see MLB standings. Let's look and see what type of which standings are you looking at?
Going to the AL Central, and the White Sox. I said they're 12 and a half games back of Minnesota in the division. Like I said, 2 games under 500, but people probably expected them to be as bad as Detroit was, to be perfectly honest. So it's looked like there's some gradual improvement by Chicago. We're trying to bring up the wild card standings here, trying to load it up for everyone.
Yeah, I got it. I have it right here. It's they are at least, I think, 7 games back from a wild card, and the AL wild card teams, Cleveland and Tampa Bay. Surprising, Tampa Bay actually is doing pretty well.
Yeah, that's the thing that frustrates so many people here in Texas, is that you look at teams like Tampa Bay and Oakland, who currently are a game and a half back of the wild cards in the American League, that those teams, especially with the 2 worst stadiums in all of baseball, they still find a way to put halfway competitive teams on the field more often than not. In fact, I've always said this, especially, I've always wanted to see as many ballparks around the country as possible. I'll tell you this right here and right now, Oakland ain't on that list.
Oh, no. That looks bad.
If I never see a game in that Oakland Coliseum before I get put 6 feet under, I'll be happy. I won't mind that. And that place,
yeah, it's a bad stadium. It's been a bad stadium for a long while. And, hopefully they'll get one. But, the Oakland area is going through a lot of transition and terrible things right now. So
the thing is, if you've ever watched that 1994 Disney remake of Angels in the Outfield, a lot of the baseball scenes were shot at the Oakland Coliseum before it got majorly renovated in the mid-1990s as part of the effort to bring the Raiders back into town. Back then, it wasn't that bad looking of a stadium, to be perfectly honest. It was relatively picturesque back there as recently as the early 1990s. But they absolutely just destroyed the look. It's just a cold, dank, almost cavernous hole. There's always been those talks about how the toilets black up in the clubhouses and spill sewer water into the dugouts. I mean, meanwhile, we're back here now. The National League has gone to Castillo of the Reds, Luis Castillo, out on the hill for the National League. Good night. How young does this guy look?
Yeah.
This guy looks like he should be playing in college, and he's got 2.29 ERA in the majors. Frack's sake, that's incredible.
Well, the technology,
Yeah.
What if this All Star Game's in a tie this year? I don't know, and honestly, it would not. I don't know. I mean, it's 1-0, so I think it might not. I don't know, but You know when I look at the standings and seeing things that the wild card and stuff like that. You know what team I'm just really just perplexed that is like not doing so well, but it's just they had a really good run is honestly Colorado. I thought they would be better this year. I thought they would be better and actually win their division.
Well, yeah, there's still only 2.5 games back of a wild card. One game under 500. So yeah, kind of a bit underachieving in that regard. Although, I mean, it's meanwhile you got San Diego,
Which is improved.
Yeah, they're at 500 on the year, 2 games back of a wild card, and that just shows you. Like, where are we at now? We've got apparently like outside of the top echelon. The National League is really jumbled. If you got Milwaukee at 3 games over 500, a half game back of a wild card, while the Rangers are 6 games over 500 and 3 games back in the American League. So you just get much more. I don't like using the term mediocrity, but yeah, there's not a lot of. It's like the National League is very top heavy.
Yeah, you have you mean look, you have the Dodgers and Atlanta who are, I think they're good if not but I worry about their pitching because again, I think that's the problem with the I'm going to be honest, that's one of the main issues I believe in the NL East is just pitching. I think if the Braves continue to play, I think they can win the division. But I think if the Phillies don't get good, the pitching's not going to get better. They're not going to. I think they'll be knocked out. If the Nationals pitching continues to improve, maybe get a reliever, or maybe get someone, because I think offensively they're fine offensively and defensively and everything else seems to be on point. I think just concentrate on the pitching, bring down that bullpen, make sure it looks a lot better. And I'm not saying they can't overtake the Braves because it's only 6 games back, and they you never know. It's still a long season, too long personally. But again, that's another issue if you want to talk about this and and such. But it is, my gosh. But you know what? I think it's still attainable for the Nationals to get to win the number 1 seed and become the NL East winner. I think they can do that. But as for number 1 seed, no. Dodgers they're looking to be like they're the first team to win 60 games. They're clearly going to be the top dog. And I just feel bad for the Diamondbacks and all that. The only way they can actually get the playoffs is actually wild card because they're like 13, 14 games back. I'm not saying it's done. It's not saying it's impossible to get back into it, but
it's not gonna. I will say this. I look at the Dodgers and the fact that they're running away with their division after losing the World Series the last 2 years. People have brought this up before. No one has ever lost 3 consecutive World Series in 3 consecutive years before. They brought that up people brought that up a lot going into the 2012 season for the Rangers, and saying that hey, look, maybe that means this is finally going to be our year. We're going to overcome what happened to us at the end of 2011, and then they ended up letting the division slip away on the last day, and then lost the wild card game in the playoffs. Doesn't look like that's going to happen for the Dodgers. Like I said, a 13.5 game lead on the rest of the pack in the National League West. They're 60. Like the only team with 50 wins currently in the National League East is the Braves. In the National League total is the Braves. They're 6 games behind the Dodgers for the top seed in the National League. So, keep that in mind. Hey, we've got 6 teams with 50 wins already in the American League. And the Rangers are only 2 games back of that. And that's the thing is that what gets me about the Rangers and these JDL and A's is, like I said, a week ago we were leading we had hold of the second wild card slot. We're 10 games over 500. All of JD's supporters were tooting their horns and whatnot. Now we're 3 games back of a wild card, and people are talking about, trading Mike Minor, trading Hunter Pence, and now those same fans are saying, well, what were you supposed to expect? This is a rebuilding year, and all that. It is. They keep finding excuses, is what I'm saying. And look, I look at myself, and there is no doubt in my mind, 25-year-old me would just shake his head at 40-year-old me and how much of a crab and a grouse I've been with the Texas Rangers. And it's not just the fact of what happened at the end of 2011. In fact, I'll say 2016 was a worse year to deal with than 2011 because they had the best record. They were the Tampa Bay Lightning of baseball that year. They hands down had the best record in the American League and then got swept out of the division series. They got outscored 15-5 the first 2 games of that series at home with Cole Hamels and Yu Darvish on the mound. And that was the year that really started to make me think that were they ever gonna be, was John Daniels without Nolan Ryan ever going to be able to assemble a team that could actually win in the postseason again? And that gives me the other thing that everyone. This is the number one argument. So many people we always get to people claiming that people like me are trying to suggest that everything that happened in 2010 and 2011, it was all because of Nolan Ryan. We're not saying that. It was because of all the other people that Nolan Ryan brought in.
It's not the man. It's the people he brings in.
Right.
It's the people who are I think that's the problem with both people and such like that. It's like not just the coach, but also his the staff and everything else he's bringing. Okay,
and here's
that's
what
that's what it is.
For example, it was bringing in the coaches like Jackie Moore and Mike Maddox and Clint Hurdle. The fact that he was the one who decided to give Ron Washington a second chance when Wash admitted his cocaine use going into spring training of 2010. It was John Daniels having the assistance of guys like A.J. Preller and Thad Levine, who were most likely the go-betweens for the players, so the players actually liked talking to. A number of other guys I probably could bring up. It's not just the fact that John Daniels ran Nolan Ryan out of town in a power struggle. It's the fact that he eventually drove everyone else out. And people keep saying that, and people keep coming back to the excuse of, well, no, he didn't run them out. They quit. As in, there wasn't a reason they quit that was tied to John Daniels and whatnot.
That's
and
again,
it also goes to the fact that they're accusing us of saying Nolan Ryan was the only reason the Rangers were winning. But now here we are, where almost every single person associated with the Rangers is gone, except for John Daniels, and the JDLNAs are saying, we're still going to find a ways to win, so they're the ones saying it was all John Daniels' doing. So they're the ones guilty of trying to give all the claim and attention to one person while accusing us of doing the same thing. Meanwhile, we've got Bieber on the mound from Cleveland.
No, not that one.
Yeah, not that one. For Cleveland. Now on the hill.
Cleveland was already suffered enough. If they held that Justin Bieber was an all-star, I think they'd be crying in their sleep. Or crying next to their, crying into their one NBA championship.
Well, they've got as many as Dallas, so I gotta give them that much. And more recently.
Yeah, but yeah, it's here's the thing though is you look at the let's look at the seeing all the All Stars and such. It's interesting. I haven't watched a full All Star since I was like back in 2001. 2001, 15, 16 years old. Because,
Well,
I was still watching,
Yeah.
again, I was like, it's just to me, when I look at it, I'm nice seeing the players in a relaxed environment and such. But I'm like, when I got older, I was like, are you sure these guys are in I get that, what? It should be like at the end of the season, personally. Like, NFL gets it right. It's the end of the season. They say, you know what? And if you're playing in the Super Bowl, you get a pass and such. But if you got nothing else to do, I mean, hey, why not? I mean, that's to me is always to me is the best way to do it. And if you want to have a break in the season, then fine. Have like a week off. Just say MLB week off. That sort of thing. And have have their own players do like little things in their own city or something like that.
I will say this: we probably won't be watching this game all the way to completion, just because, like I pointed out earlier, we probably won't be going on much longer than 10 p.m. Central Time, because then I myself am going to switch over to Radio Dead Air, because for those not aware, Nash Bozart had to postpone what would have been last night's airing of RDA, citing exhaustion and whatnot. Yep.
Yeah, he's building his computer and such, which is... Tried that once.
I looked at that thing and wondering, is that thing going to come alive and start attacking people with what he did to it and everything? But like I said, he'll be getting, the flagship segment, What the F is Wrong with You, will be airing at around 10:30 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to clock out of here with about half an hour before that. Personally, also one of these because, for those not aware, I'm mentioned in his shout-outs because I'm one of his bigger Patreon supporters. Always like watching that. He's actually been one of the biggest promoters of my most recent TV trash reviews. Because
he was the child of the 80s.
Oh yeah, that's a great thing. That's the fun thing about watching Nash, and just having the notion that he's actually remembers quite a few of the shows I've been bringing up recently as well. And just the fact that... just the fact that I think he was more freaked out by Shirt Tales than I was. And I'm the one who watched it recently. And just listening to that, just always a bit of a hoot to hear him talk about just how knucking futz that show really was.
Well, like I said, it could be worse. I just can't wait for the Zack Snyder reboot of it. Is it owned by Warner Brothers? Just saying. Just wondering. It's going to happen soon.
Well, funny you should bring that up, because like I said, there is one show that I think maybe could stand, and I mentioned this, it could stand a reboot of some way and whatnot, and that's the next TV trash review, which I think will be posted publicly. It should be available to Patreon supporters later this week. So if you want to get it now, anyone who's listening that's not a member of my Patreon yet, then join up there at patreon.com/RowdyCProductions. The next TV trash should be available to them later this week, and then eventually get posted on RowdyC.com and Manic Expression next Monday. I am talking, of course, about my review of The Biscuits. And I actually am eagerly awaiting what Nash's reaction to seeing that video was, because he did say, when I posted my upcoming schedule of the summer TV trash schedule, he basically admitted that he had seen all of the 3 cartoons I'm to be reviewing this summer. Which, for the record now, for those not aware, there were Shirt Tales, then The Biscuits, and then August, we're finally getting into the Get Along Gang.
Oh yeah.
So that's a very, very.
I have never heard of this thing, The Biscuits. That looks really weird, and I can't wait to watch, because I am one of your Patreons. So
well, trust me, I eagerly await you being able to watch it. Should be by about. I think I've got it scheduled for all $1 patrons to get it by Friday. I think that's where I scheduled it for. So you should get there. Looks like a very successful inning for the hometown guy being there in Cleveland, is able to shut down the National League. We've still got a 1-0 American League lead in this 2019 All Star Game. This one does not determine home field advantage in the World Series.
Smart.
Anymore.
I like that, because I know everything they try. I remember it's like, this time it counts. I'm like, Why? It's a fun game. Why do you need to do this?
Well,
It's a nice thing.
because there was so much. Well, that's just the thing. I want to get into that. That is the For me, that was the epitome of showing how that may have been the first example of an unpleasable fan base I've ever seen. Because you said the last time you watched it in full was 2001. The next year after that, that was the infamous game where they had to end it after 11 innings in a tie game because they had run out of pitchers. And people just raised an uproar.
Oh, I remember that.
That the game
I remember they were like, I was like,
they ended without a winner, and that's what drove them to have the have it where okay, we'll make something that makes it count, so there has to be a winner. We'll make it so that there's home field advantage in the World Series to the winner. And for what it's worth, I'll never forget this. You know, the next year, 2003, was won by the American League. Guess who hit the game-winning home run in that game? Rangers' Hank Blaylock. Actually got the game-winning home run, if I remember correctly, in that thing. But, I mean, yeah, it was probably a gimmick, but it was a gimmick that I would say they were asking for because they were demanding they do something to make the game mean something and whatnot.
Well, honestly, I think honestly, even though I don't want to disparage, it's been an interesting game and such. If you like the pitching and such, matchup and such. I love saying that word, but it can get like okay, it's the idea of the All Star Game, seeing the best players, from different teams play against each other. For like a prize and or something for the division or something is a nice novel idea. But I think the problem is I think people are like, why are something at an All-Star game basically saying, wait, this is going to decide the World Series, the home field, not my team's best record or anything else that, say, hey, for example, when the Rangers made the World Series and such, did they get home field or no?
No, both 2010 and 2011, the home field advantage went to the National League that year, and I'm pretty sure that's a big a sour note for a lot of Ranger fans in that regard, and the fact that I think the Rangers were especially 2011, because the Rangers, as we see Walker Buehler now on for the National League now, and that's another guy who looks like he should be pitching in college, for frack's sake. And he's got a 3.46 ERA. But, yeah, I think the Rangers won 95 games that year and had the best record in the American League. Meanwhile, the Cardinals just got in on the last day of the season with a wild card, and the Cardinals had home field advantage. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm one that, especially in baseball, have long said that home field advantage in the playoffs doesn't mean that much. It all depends on what type of pitcher you've got on the mound. And I think historically that set him up nuts, because I think every time the World Series has gone to a seventh game after 2011, it's been won by the road team.
Yeah.
That much. So in that regards, it hasn't meant that much of a difference as far as who wins it. But at the same time, I've always had an issue. I've started to have an issue with overall record, especially for the interleague, interconference postseason matchups for the finals and whatnot. That determines home field, home court when maybe the team that had the best record had a better schedule than the other team. Like I said, if the Eastern Conference got the best record because they had much tougher, less competition, were they really the best team and whatnot? That's why I never really mind. Main thing I'm getting at here is I never minded it when, even before the whole All-Star debacle and whatnot, they just alternated each year. It was, up until 2003, it was just the American League started the World Series one year, and then the National League got the next one. And I really didn't have a problem with that, to be perfectly honest. Just one moment. And it's the same reason why, and it's a similar reason as to why, with the division series matchups, I never minded when it was a 2-3 matchup, if you know what I'm saying. Like, technically, the team with home field advantage actually had to start on the road for 2 straight games before then getting 3 straight at home. And I've always had the mindset of, like, the detractors of that always said, you could be down, you could be the best team in the league and be down 0-2 before you even get a home game. And I'm of the mindset of, if you were going to lose 2 straight just because they were on the road, you didn't deserve to win anyway.
Exactly.
You're not the best team anyway. I've always had that belief of the fact that, look, if you're really the best team, and you're the team that's that has the real capable of winning a championship, you gotta have the ability that no matter what the situations are, you're gonna go out and win. I think the fact that the Mavericks were able to go into Miami and finish off the Heat on their home floor in 2011 proved that more than anything else.
Yeah, same thing with the Capitals. Beat the Vegas Golden Knights at their home. At Game 5. That's, if you're the best team, you play to going on her end. You play to win the game. You don't like, I'll wait till I'll just wait until we come home. No, you finish the thing there.
Oh yeah,
right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, in the Mavericks case, they would have had to finish them off in Miami because the last 2 games. That was also back when the NBA Finals was still the finals were a 2-3-2 matchup. So the last 2 games, so they left Dallas after the 3 games here in Dallas up 3-2. So they were going to have to win one of the last 2 games in Miami to finish off that series. And they just went out and I went into that game saying, if they just get into the 4th quarter with a lead, Miami's done. They'll have beaten them down. And that would be doing it. Meanwhile, it looks like we've got a 2-0 lead now for the American League as the All-Star for the Twins beat out an infield single to drive in a run. So it's now a 2-0 lead for the American League over the Nationals. It was a bobble ball at shortstop by, one of the several All-Stars for the Dodgers. He was not able to field it cleanly, and then with that, Polanco was able to beat out the throw easily, and that scored the Yankees All-Star from first base. But now it's a 2-0 lead for the American League in the 5th inning. So I'm trying to think, this hasn't been too badly paced of a game, I would have to say, on some level. I suppose not.
Yeah. And it's I look at both these watching this, and I'm like and seeing the the game and everything. I just I don't know. Just when I look at this, I'm like, I just wish them I don't know. If they're Anthony Rendon at this point, the National League would have at least 1 or 2 runs. Just saying. If you haven't watched any of the Nationals games, man, because their offense is really good. I don't want to toot the horn, but man, you see Soto, you have Pereira, you have Anthony Rendon, you have these really good hitters, and just I'm like, this every time it looks like they were I'm like, oh boy, it's down. They're down like a couple runs or something, but they just come back and they just hit like bam, bam, bam. Like, well, the bases are loaded. And next, they have one base hit, and then next, they tied it up or take the lead. I'm like, after a couple seconds there. And
that's almost the exact opposite feeling of I'm seeing some people feel about the Rangers, where if they don't strike early and often, there's not really a good chance, like I said, and especially as long as they've got a guy like Minor or Lynn on the mound. Because with us, it's like you put two guys on, and it's like, how are they going to screw this up? Especially because the bottom third of their lineup, with the likes of Odor and Mathis, is just a black hole. That's almost the last three batters in our lineup are almost always easy out. And they're basically having to be carried by the likes of Shin-Soo Choo and Hunter Pence and Joey Gallo. Otherwise, maybe we would be one of the worst teams in baseball and whatnot. Didn't want to ask you this, and I guess, well, maybe it had happened. Were you ever able to attend one of these All-Star games in person?
No. I know there was one in D.C., but I just didn't care for it. I was like, no. I just, I mean, probably I would like to. I would like to one day do it, but I just don't have the emotion to do so. But yeah.
I did get to see when the All-Star Game was here in Texas back in 1995. Was able to see that. Kenny Rogers and Pudge Rodriguez were the All-Stars for the Rangers that year. Kenny, unfortunately, giving up the game-tying home run to Mike Piazza. But Pudge threw out a base runner in the first inning, so that the crowd was able to go home happy for that. The National League won that game 3-2. The only 3 hits the American League gave up in that game. They were all 3 hits, but they were all solo home runs, and that proved to be the difference in that matchup. The only runs we scored, I believe, were off of a Frank Thomas home run, I believe. But looking back in here, in the meantime, like I said, maybe we were...
But yeah, seeing this stuff in the baseball realm and everything. You know what? Going to your show, TV Trash and everything, speaking of All-Stars, what's that show, a cartoon with Michael Jordan and... Pro Stars. Are you surprised that no one has made another one of those shows yet? Or a reboot or something like that? I'm surprised.
I don't know. I think this probably would have had it more than ever. Now they would have to deal with a ton of licensing issues, I would almost say, that might be obstructing that possibility. I do know this. I think supposedly there was such a show made some time ago involving, of all things, NASCAR drivers. I gotta look that thing up. I didn't, you may recall, I did review that NASCAR cartoon show Digger and Friends some time ago, and people then told me about the supposed animated show or comic book series involving NASCAR superhero stars. I've got to probably need to hunt down eventually one of these
and
days.
Also NFL Rush Zone, actually, an animated series supposedly, which I heard is actually decent. I hear it's it's got a 6.3 on IMDb and such, so it can't be that terrible. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, meanwhile, we've been talking about baseball right now, and which of course is the biggest sport going on at this time. But meanwhile, other sports like the NBA are trying to steal their thunder. I want to ask you this much. Now, was anyone up in D.C. really expecting a franchise like the Washington Wizards to really do anything as far as the free agent offseason goes?
As long as, when I looked at it, I'm like, you know what? I consider that a win. Because, hey, Dwight Howard, all 9 games of his great excellence. 9 games. And he, other than the only thing he of note, he had that off the stuff issues and such. And then I'm like, and then he just was quiet the entire season. I'm like, and I said before, I was like, why? This was, you know what? It's the one thing, the interview I heard about Dwight Howard that made me realize that he, this guy was not going to be like he's good, but not going to be like that, the person to push you up to the top. He said he wanted to be the anti-version of, let me see what what he wanted to be, Tim Duncan. He wanted to be the anti-Tim Duncan. And he got what he wanted. Tim Duncan is one of the best, power forwards of all time. Multiple champion, guaranteed to be a Hall of Famer. never really caused much drama. Didn't, I mean, seriously, you may have, issue with San Antonio, but that is legitimately, I honestly think he's probably one of the best players they ever had. Never caused any drama. He just did his job, came in, did his work, and left. And, well, Dwight Howard, well, yeah. Oh, gosh. I look and see what's happened to the Wizards, and I'm like, you know what? I'm honestly, I'm like, they're doing just fine. Heck, they got Isaiah Thomas. No, not that one. Yeah, but the younger one that destroyed them in the second, in the second round a couple years ago.
Yeah, but meanwhile, I said
exactly the low barriers, people. I mean, again, you have you have Bradley Beal and John Wall, who's injured and probably not going to be. In fact, it's just like there should be like a team of the injured players. We have John Wall, we got KD, you got let's see who else is injured and can't go for next this year or mid to returns middle of next season or season after. Let's see, maybe Boogie Cousins, I think Klay Thompson, pretty much the entire Golden State Warriors team of this year. I'm like I'm just sitting here looking at the team. The NBA seems to be so wide open, but yeah, I look at the Wizards just. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, see,
it's frustrating.
Meanwhile, it's just, you want to talk about frustrating. It's just having to deal with some of these people. Meanwhile, down here in Dallas, look, we know that by comparison, the Western Conference is a dogfight, and it may even take a lot to get the Mavericks back up to being a playoff team in the West, just from the level of what the competition is. Even though I think it's going to be a lot more spread out than what it really is, due to the fact that, it looks like the Warriors aren't going to be as dominant this year as they was for the last 4 or 5. You've got both the Clippers and the Lakers in a checkbook war with one another, and
I think the Clippers are winning.
Yeah, but the point here is already the Mavericks are in a definite position where you think they should be a better team next year, just for the fact that they got Kristaps Porzingis from the Knicks at the deadline last year, and he should be good to go finally to start next season. Adding him with Luka Doncic to have that type of 1-2 punch. And like I said, I don't know what it's going to be, but people are already saying that's not going to be enough, and the season's already over before it begins, because they didn't make that big splash in free agency. They didn't land the big fish, which is one of the most, that's a term I hate just about more than anything in sports. It's one of the most dumbest things I've ever heard. And it's just, they keep going back and trying to blame Mark Cuban for not doing whatever it took to land some free agent when, one, he can't offer more money than anyone else because of the NBA salary rules. It's like, what did you really expect him to do that would have been different, that would make someone want to come to Dallas above any other of these other teams? It's like they keep trying to find excuses, and no one wants to accept the possibility of, this is like heresy for me to dare say this, even though I keep saying it over and over and over. Maybe people just don't want to play basketball in Dallas, because you're going to be in the Cowboys' shadow all of the time. I keep saying this.
I think Tim Calishaw, he retweeted you and just tried to do.
Yeah, Calishaw of the Morning News, and now with a PTI, and always with the other show on Around the Horn on ESPN.
Around the Horn.
Yeah, and that, believe me, people get into that. But like I said, what was I about to? What was I? Now what I was about to say was, we were so incredibly lucky here in Dallas to have a guy like Dirk Nowitzki for 20 years, who was just that rare case of, he didn't mind the fact that he was never going to be the hugest star in the entire city, simply because he was a basketball player. I've had people, now there are some people who agree with me on this and saying that Dirk is hands down the greatest athlete in DFW history.
Ooh, that's a bit of a statement.
Well, for me, it's like, how can it not be? You got the guy who basically single-handedly carried a team on his back for 20 years. You look at where he ranks among the all-time great players in so many categories. The fact that he got that team championship and probably carried them to that title more than any other team has carried another team to a championship in this area's history. But by the same token, I had guys, people I won't mention by name because I don't want to acknowledge their existence that much, saying stuff like, everyone who played for the Cowboys in the 70s was a greater athlete than Dirk. And that's the type of attitude that basketball players have to deal with in this area. Another thing that people keep, especially in the media, keep dismissing me on is when I keep saying that you can't overstate how much of an issue it had to have been when the Mavericks won the title back in 2011. The city of Dallas would not fund them a parade. And yes, at the time, they were under being run by an interim mayor, a real corrupt guy by the name of Dwayne Caraway. Won't get into him that much, but it was kind of a transitional period for Dallas leadership at the time. But simply the fact that you're never going to convince me that they wouldn't have gone into double secret bankruptcy to provide the Cowboys the biggest, most lavish championship parade in history if they ever won another Super Bowl again.
Oh, and the Cowboy fans! Oh gosh, oh goodness, they are everywhere in DC. Never been to Texas. Never even been to Oklahoma. Not even the states close to Texas. I was born in Texas. I've been to Texas. I have more right to call myself a Cowboy fan than any other people here in this area.
No, believe me, I gotta deal with those guys right here in DFW. They're some of the most arrogant people out there whatsoever. But it's just that fact that we gotta deal with those, and the fact that when a guy like Dale Hansen years ago said, if the Mavericks win the championship, this was years before they finally did it. If the Mavericks ever won the championship and the Cowboys coach announced his resignation the same day, the Mavericks would make page 4 of the papers. And I have to look at it and I can't say he's wrong there. That's the kind of problem you have, is just how much more focus the Dallas Cowboys get ahead of every other team in this area. And then people don't think that that's not a factor as to why other types of athletes end up not wanting to come here. They keep showing stuff like how, of course everyone will want to come to Dallas because Texas has no state income tax, so they'll make more money here. That doesn't matter to these guys.
And by the way, Colorado the National League, I think, just scored. I think they just scored a run. Was it a home run? I don't know.
I'm still on the delay, and it's still a 2-0 lead for the American League by my screen, and nobody on base. But they do have Charlie Blackmon of the Rockies now on for the National League against an Oakland A's pitcher, and I think he just ended up getting a home run right now.
By the way, props to Alonso. I love the golden brace he has on. That is amazing. That's nice. That's, what? Why can't he wear that that should be something. I mean, look, the Mets season is done. All right, we can agree to that, right? So why not just say, what? Wear some nice jewelry. Wear that nice thing here. Get some, get a little attention. He's a rookie. You know what? He's probably going to be traded anyway. Just, have a little bit of fun out there.
Well, I'm going to have a little laugh at myself that the first run the National League was scored in this game was off of an Oakland pitcher. So I'm going to laugh at that at least as I can. But the American League still has a 2-1 lead in this game for whatever that's worth. For what that's worth. But just like I said, people, you will not believe how many times people try to sell the no state income tax factor and trying to Dallas's supposed advantage of signing free agents that never ends up coming. Now I'm telling you this. Like, suppose Mike Trout had become a free agent, and the Angels offer him the biggest contract in Major League history. The Rangers counter him. I don't know I can't give you what the exact numbers would be right now. What the Rangers offered was technically less, but when you factor in that Texas has no state income tax compared to what California state income tax is, someone like Mike Trout would technically be bringing in more money for himself. In the eyes of these people in Texas, it should be a no-brainer that Mike Trout would take what gives him the most money and sign with the Rangers. He's signing that deal with the Angels because, one, it's an ego factor that he gets to say, I signed the biggest contract in baseball history, and because if there's one thing these guys know, they know one way or the other it's still more money than they'll ever need in their lives. So the exact amount that they bring in is not an issue for them in that regard. It is the factor of making sure they got the biggest and best deal possible. And the fact that, you know what, he's going to be a bit of a bigger star in Los Angeles than he'd have to be being here in Texas because he's not a football player. And that's the kind of issue, those are the kind of, trying to find the words, exactly what I'm looking for here. Those are the type of limitations that every athlete who's not a football player in North Texas has to deal with, and so many people just don't want to understand that part.
Yeah, that's true, and it's and by the way, it looks like it's still gonna be one. The American League is still up 1-2. So,
Yep.
But yeah, it is, you know, it's the payment and all these players and such. I don't know what is the solution to that, because, you know, unless you're gonna overpay someone, and yeah,
Well, that's
because
a whole other situation. I actually was wondering how much longer we were going to go in the show. But you actually brought up a good point here that I definitely want to get to, and I might start off with, again, I might start off with this whole idea that whether or not the Rangers are going to trade Mike Minor before the deadline. Now, the point I was getting is here: would it really be worth it if you keep him the rest of this season? If you don't end up making the playoffs and you aren't able to re-sign him, you at least could tender him an offer that would get you the draft picks for compensation should he leave. And if you'll get this more long-term, the draft picks will probably mean as much to you down the line. But then again, there's a chance you might not get those draft picks because of the fact that Minor might get keucheled after this season. Which brings to the bigger problem I'm having with how things are going in the state of baseball right now. It's just the fact that I don't see how you can look at what's going on and not say that it's not collusion right now on the owner's part. With what's been going on the last couple of years where, okay, first off, it's bad enough you had guys like the top echelon of stars, Yu Darvish last year, and then this year even Bryce Harper and Manny Machado weren't able to sign until spring training began. But then, you've got guys like Dallas Keuchel and Craig Kimbrell who were more or less frozen out until June. And it's just, what I'm trying to put here, it's like, I remember back when it used to be, see, this is what I've got to realize. Years ago, the way the free agent setup was made was, if a top type A free agent was one where he was a free agent, but if you offered him salary arbitration, but he refused it and then signed with another team, then you would get the first round draft pick from the team that signed him. If you didn't offer him salary arbitration, you lost all negotiating rights for him until May and got no compensation should he sign with another team. That's a very player-friendly situation. Now, eventually it got changed to where now it's, you have to tender him, a qualifying offer contract. I don't remember what the what the numbers you have to give him for it to be a qualifying offer off the top of my head. Where now it's if you offer a player a qualifying offer and then he's a Type A free agent and you get 2 draft picks should he sign elsewhere. You don't forfeit a first-round pick, though, if you sign a guy. What you're seeing now is, like I said, what happened is, it's almost like they're trying to use the risk of losing those draft picks as an excuse not to sign a guy. And what really is looking like was a great play there at second base. Did he get thrown out? Oh, well. But it's still 2-1 National, American League over the Nationals. What seems to me is happening now is the owners are trying to force a buyer's market. That's what the term I'm looking for right now. Is that they're never going to get, there's always going to be a seller's market for the top echelon of stars. Your Manny Machados, your Bryce Harpers, your Mike Trouts, your Justin Verlanders even. It seems like what they're trying to do now is revert back, trying to force feed a buyer's market to the next level of players, the Craig Kimbrells, and maybe even the Dallas Keuchels, who was not a bad pitcher in his own right. It's almost like the saying is, we're gonna first lock them up as a Type A free agent, and then say that, okay, now, because other teams are going to have to give up something major to sign you, your best chance of being able to suit up in a uniform for spring training is just sign on the dotted line of whatever your current team offers you. And if you're not willing to do that, enjoy sitting on the couch until June of next year, which is when that time period will expire, and a team can sign you without giving up any compensation draft picks. But again, how can a situation like that work without every team more or less colluding with one another? And we've had collusion in baseball before. Remember, back in the 1980s.
So I don't know what you do in that situation. First, you have that's a huge, accusation and such. You don't have, if there is proof of this stuff, man, if there is collusion with owners and such, that pretty much, with the Players Association, that's like a lockout, strike? Or?
Maybe I can go back and try to look up what the history of the collusion lawsuits that went down in the 80s. I don't think any of those ended up in a strike per se, those specifically, but it did end up in lawsuits that I think cost the owners a lot of money in the end. I'm going to do a Google search right now.
I'm looking at it right now, and
I know there were some articles on Wikipedia and whatnot.
Okay, there was a collusion allegations in 2002 and 2003, and as part of the 2006 CBA, owners agreed to pay players $12 million from the luxury tax revenue sharing funds.
Okay, so it looks like there's no initiative killed. Here's what I'm talking about. It's what happened back in the 80s. And it really started in which, basically with Peter Ueberroth, when he became commissioner of baseball in 1984, called out all the owners for supposedly being damned dumb for being willing to lose millions of dollars in order to win a World Series. That later in another meeting with the general manager, Ueberroth said it was not smart to sign long-term contracts. The message was obvious: hold down salaries, pay by any means necessary. It later emerged that the owners agreed to keep contracts down to 3 years for position players and 2 for pitchers. The free agent market following the 1985 season was different from any since the Seitz decision a decade earlier. I'm guessing that's the one which granted free agency to the players. Of 35 free agents, only 4 changed teams, and those 4 were not wanted by their old teams. Star players such as Kirk Gibson, Tommy John, and Phil Niekro did not receive offers from other teams. The cover of the December 9th, 1985 edition of the Sporting News asked, "Why won't anyone sign Kirk Gibson?" George George Steinbrenner offered Carlton Fisk a contract, then withdrew the offer after getting a call from Chicago White Sox chairman Jerry Reinsdorf. Teams also reduced team rosters from 25 to 24 players. By December, several agents thought that something was amiss, complained to Major League Baseball's Players Association President Don Fehr. In February of 1986, the MLB filed its first grievance, later known as Collusion 1. You want to get it here, there was, basically there was more stuff where star players in the free agent market filed in 1986, not much better. Star players that ended up back with their old teams included Jack Morris, Tim Raines, Ron Guidry, Rich Gedman, Bob Boone, and Doyle Alexander. This prompted the NBA for the first time since the star free agency. The average free agent salary dropped by 16%, while MLB reported revenues increasing by 15%. This prompted the MLBPA to file a second grievance in February of '87. In September of '87, the Collusion 1 case came before arbitrator Thomas Roberts, who ruled that owners had violated the CBA by conspiring to restrict player movement. After the ruling, the owners changed their tactic, but not their intent. They created an information bank to share information about what offers were being made to players. Players affected included Paul Molitor, Jack Clark, and Dennis Martinez. In January 1988, the Players Association filed its third grievance. So there were three grievances filed by the Players Association citing collusion between 1986 and 1988. On January 18th, 1988, damages were announced in the Collusion 1 case. Roberts demanded damages of $10.5 million should be paid by the owners to the players. By then, only 14 of the 1985 free agents were still in baseball, and Roberts awarded 7 of them a second chance as new-look free agents. They could offer their services to any team without losing their existing contracts. On January 29th, 1988, my 9th birthday, Kirk Gibson signed a $4.5 million 3-year contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I think what he did for the Dodgers in '88 has gone on in pretty much history then. In October of '89, arbitrator George Nicolau presided over Collision 2 and found in favor of the players. Nicolau determined damages of $38 million. New-look free agencies included Guidry, Bob Boone, Doyle Alexander, Willie Randolph, Brian Downing, and Rich Gedman. Collusion 3 damages worth $64.5 million. Owners will also have to compensate for losses related to multi-year contracts and lost bonuses. A final settlement of the 3 collusion cases was reached in November 1990. The owners agreed to pay the players $280 million, with the MLBPA deciding how to distribute the money to the damaged players. And I believe it's the commissioner of baseball, Fay Vincent, years later in 2005, more or less admitted that the decision to expand baseball in 1993 and 97 actually was part of to help them pay the damages for the collusion. So yeah, I'm really starting to wonder here. That's what I'm wondering. Is, will there be more grievances eventually fired, or might they force a labor dispute, which we haven't had since 1994, in the next round of labor negotiations? One thing that problem is they haven't. It just seems like the players sadly haven't had as much bite in labor negotiations. Sadly, since Tony Clark became head of the players' union, I mean, in a sad irony, since he's the first former player to actually lead the players' union.
Well, yeah. But yeah, it's funny about all this stuff, and I looked in the about collusion and everything. We have Jeff Boris talks about this as saying that the MLB owners are colluding, talking about suppressing salaries, and saying that it seems like he thinks that the luxury tax right here in the article, it just came out like early this year. I think it was January 14th, 29th this year, and he says Boris said the luxury tax is a disguise for a salary cap. It's a disguise for the owners to not go over a threshold. It's almost a gentlemanly agreement, like, hey, nobody go over this and we all be okay. We'll all be better off for that. Which is, if that's the case, I always say if you want to get a salary cap, just put a salary cap in there.
Well, that's the scary part is that's what they tried. The owners tried to force a salary cap back in 1994, and we got the strike that killed the World Series that year. So I think they've always been kind of a bit timid to try to do that. Not to mention the fact that I've heard guys like former NFL players tell people like tell players like in baseball and even the NBA players like said, look, always stand tough and don't give in to all what we ended up giving into the owners, which is restricted the NFL salaries probably lower than anybody, despite the NFL being leaps and bounds higher in popularity of any of the other sports. I know that the NFL players over history, especially the ones back in the 80s and such, they supposedly regret their decisions and not being tougher against the owners.
That's what's the thing in the strike there. I don't know if they would not have a salary cap. I mean, maybe if they push, maybe the NFL would have had the same thing with the NBA, which is like a luxury tax situation, which I think that's probably the best solution to have. Like, you don't want to have teams go so overboard in signing players that they bankrupt themselves, which some owners that did. But I think there should be a limit. Like, say, okay, this is what you have to we want to play for a couple years. We like you situation. Here's like 15, 20 million per year, that sort of thing. And that to me should be the if the player is good enough, they should have that type of stuff, but not because some of these ownerships, and especially some of these they're not like in these like big cities and such.
I'm torn by the situation just because of the fact that one, I've been pro player almost my entire life, and especially because on one hand, I do know there are certain players out there that like the second and third tier levels of players. Some of them probably are getting paid more than that they're probably worth. Like, you look at, as big as the game can get, a Bryce Harper getting $30 million a year, you're never going to see me complain about that with how much more the owners make.
The Astros have such a rich history of strikeout pitchers. Nolan Ryan, J.R.
Okay,
Mike
but also main thing I was getting here, so I got a bit distracted because I think someone came over my sound feed for a moment, so I was a bit distracted there. But
what's your reaction to this?
But yeah, so
highest single season strikeout percentage.
What's going on? What's going on?
This season.
I'm
you hear
sorry.
me?
I'm sorry. I had a video playing on here, and I'm sorry. It distracted me. My apologies for that. But anyway, main thing I was getting at is that one, you're never gonna see me, especially I just can't side with any type of salary restrictions on players that are forced on them. One, because I firmly believe salary caps don't work. Because if anything, Major League Baseball, regardless of the fact that we had a Boston-Los Angeles World Series last year, still has had probably the most competitive balance of any of the major sports out there, outside of maybe the NHL, and even then, I think that's that's more than what it really is on the surface. I think the NHL's not quite as balanced as people want to make it out to be. The other thing is this. The one thing you keep hearing about from fans is they look at player salaries and believe one reason they always, so many of them are not always in favor of the players, is the fact that they always think that there's a correlation between player salaries and ticket prices. But I seem to recall someone that I follow in the sports media, I forget who exactly was, but brought up this important point. The majority of player salaries don't come out of ticket revenue. They come out of television revenue. At which point, every team gets an equal share of the pie from baseball's national TV and radio contracts. I'm in favor of revenue sharing in that regard, in making sure there's somewhat of an equal opportunity to get more, to get some of the lowest clubs maybe some more possible revenue options. But just the fact that if what they're saying is true, and even the biggest clubs, the owners are keeping the lion's share of the ticket profits, you're not going to hear me complain about how much the players are making.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the players that drive tickets and in situations. I mean, the owners, for the most part, control the purses and all that type of stuff. The prices go up when they do. I mean, yeah, when the prices go up when they win or lose, or they own. They have the broadcasting stuff. They have the, merch, all that. It's not people. I think it's a lot of people saying the correlation of again. You talked about that. Say, if the players get more money, that means the ticket prices go up. I'm like,
and
no.
This is coming from someone who saw after 2011 the seats that I normally sat in back at Rangers Ballpark. Their ticket prices tripled after 2011. Which was a big reason why, in the last few years, I haven't been able to attend as many games as I had before then. But again, when I see the stuff like the ticket prices don't go down to the players, which does not surprise me in shape or form. But no, I'll say this much. I don't know how many more baseball games I'm going to attend after this year. And me from 20 years ago would probably have a heart attack at hearing me say that. I'm trying to attend as many games as possible now just because of the fact that it is the last year of our current ballpark before they end up moving to what I call the Country Club Stadium. But at no point in time have I ever cited the players as a reason I would not attend a game. Even if I never go to another Texas Rangers game in person after this year, I'm always going to wish the best for anyone wearing a Texas Rangers uniform, with a small handful of exceptions. I never liked it when Milton Bradley played here, and I never liked it when John Rocker played here. Those are two names that let's just I try to forget they ever wore a Rangers uniform. But
thank goodness they haven't that for the Nationals just yet, but you know.
But I said, if anyone drives me from not being able to attend games in person, it's going to be the people in the ties in the front office. That's what it is more than anything else. And I don't know where my status as a sportsman is going to be after this season, but I do know this. It's not going to be because of the athletes, for the most part. It's going to be because of the fact that the owners price me out, and that certain people among the fan bases turned out to be the type of people I don't want to associate with anymore.
Yeah, and the AL just scored again. They had a nice double play, but Chapman scored.
Yeah, they got themselves into a first and third situation. You're pretty much gonna get.
I don't know how you could do it. By the way, Altivision in the chat says he says he loves the fact.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's such a again this.
Like I said, I'm gonna admit this. Like I said, when I got into this whole internet personality situation, I didn't know how much sports I was going to talk. First off, because like I said, it was as I was becoming more and more of an internet personality, I was kind of becoming less and less of a sports watcher. More than anything because, like I said, more and more of my time was being spent watching the TV shows that I needed to watch in order to review and put my videos up. Now I'm trying to be more transition. I do think that stuff like these live streams are more going to be the future for me. Eventually, I'm going to. I know my review shows are going, particularly TV trash. The end is going to come for them one of these days. Maybe not for another year or so, but the day is going to come. I do hope to make some more original programming on the order of a Rowdy and Friends and some other series I've got. But I do also want to step up these live stream ideas. I do want to say this. If there are more people like Alternative Vision out there who are interested in my sports talk, if I try to talk about some of the history I've had as a sports fan, if that drives your interest, I'll try to find room for it more often to try to talk about in this area. And if I can have guys like DukeCT on here more than often, you're definitely welcome to talk about this whenever possible.
But yeah, it's an interesting type of situation. Me, I've always been the sports pro wrestling type stuff. I just did pro wrestling, and I still watch it. It's just even though I've actually transitioned out of it mostly. If you see my reviews, I had to change from. I used to do pro wrestling pay-per-views, then I switched it up. Did now just movies. Video games. I'm working one right now, and occasionally do pro wrestling and such. It's a mixture of just this TV show being god awful, and just trying to finding just other things to do and talk about, not just that live stream, which I need to get back to, but just doing other things to diversify, bring it into the podcast, which is right now, which I have started, many moons ago. It has just been picking up steam ever since. And I can't believe this. I always am humble. I'm humble if someone if I only had 10 downloads, I would be happy. I'll be singing it to the mountaintops. But right now I have over 70,000 downloads, and I am just wow. I'm still just amazed by that. Just amazed by anyone who's actually listened to my show and loved hearing this type of stuff. Talking about that, that sort of thing. I'm just so happy that people are just connecting with that stuff, and I'm gonna try to do some more stuff there soon, and and all that stuff. But yeah, looking into the future, who knows? But I will be I'll be still around,
sure.
Mostly.
And
I will still be here.
Hopefully, I can get to that level as well. First thing that I want to do right now is hopefully boost up to. I need to get my Twitch followers up now. Like I said,
speaking of which, one of your Rangers just hit a home run.
And that must have been Gallo then, because like I said, Gallo's the only guy who's in there. I'm gonna bring up, like I said, I was probably still on delay because they're in commercial mode right now. I'm gonna double check my Twitter feed, because if that happened, that place would have gone nuts. What is it taking me? Gallo time? Everyone was saying about Gallo time on here 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, Texas. By the way,
yep,
I got
there we go.
Yeah,
Joey Gallo.
Yeah,
Rangers players have actually had some decent success in All Star games in the last few years. But yeah, that blast by Joey Bats makes it now 4-1 American League in the All Star game. Don't know if that's going to be enough to get him the MVP on it, but now everyone's probably going nuts on my Twitter feed. Yeah, everyone
is happy and such.
Yeah.
Which,
but
I think it is. Yeah. This game looks like it'll be about over.
If the American League's pitchers hold up, for sure, and we all got a lot of great pitchers on there. But anyway, like I was going to say, hopefully, especially if I post this whole live stream on YouTube eventually, to start getting my Twitch followers up, I need about 10 more to become an affiliate, at which point I can start uploading videos to my Twitch channel again, because apparently Twitch changed the rules on that. So hopefully anyone out there maybe can give a shout out to follow me at I think you have to follow me, not necessarily friend me, because I think a real life friend of mine went ahead and clicked on me being a friend, but I don't think that changed the number of followers. I might talk about that just to be on the safe side.
It is, you have to have followers. Well, you have a healthy amount of followers, 40. As for myself, well, if you want to, I only have at least as time right now, 20, and I'm just happy that I got at least that.
Yeah.
I'm just happy I got at least that.
Yeah, we'll keep trying to be happy for what we got, but keep trying to pushing forward.
Oh yeah.
On that note,
I have not been posting and doing live stream for for a couple weeks because personal crazy stuff in my life,
Yeah,
family crazy,
absolutely.
and the heat, which just zaps my energy and such,
Yeah.
which was so much fun. Yeah, just but yet I still perform and everything. Not as good as Max Scherzer, and such. Which, by the way, I'm still impressed by. Do have a black eye after getting the thing, happened accidentally, and then the broken nose, and still pitched the game of his life. I'm just, this dude is, I mean, yeah, he is a Hall of Famer. And, it's funny because he's actually went and talked about his former team. I believe there was an article around, if I can find it. He's like, he didn't know what happened. Like, why couldn't they, these like the the Detroit Tigers, another team that really came close to this couple years, and they couldn't get it done. I think your name tree actually talked about that.
Right.
They had multiple chances. It's just it's just it's just weird that they had everything else here. It's just I think here it is. He just he took time, pause on it is on I think on the Washington Post is such. He just he said that he doesn't know. He says right here in a quote, he says Kevin, it's like that's honestly one of his biggest. Oh, he's about to say. I said, yeah. It's like it feels like a big regret that we weren't able to deliver a World Series, a championship. And quite honestly, I look at that team and see what the Detroit Tigers were those couple years. It felt like they were like a parallel to the Rangers. They had everything there, and it's just I don't know what happened.
Just things didn't go our way, and you just cling to the hope now at this point in time that you might get another opportunity like you once seemed to have. I mean, I guess at the very least you say, at least we got to see some World Series before. Whereas,
the
sadly, Nationals, you've yet to get out of the division series yet. Just some of the teams that you've had that just have not been able to get over that hump. And the way that you come that close almost every time, that's got to be gut-wrenching as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny enough, and the last losses they had, I mean, they lost to, funny enough, the eventual world. I mean, they lost to the Cubs, which was eventually the World Series champions. So that's a bit of consolation, even though I don't think that's enough. But I'm just like, at this point, at this late date, I'm just wondering, what is it? I don't know what is that type of, maybe this year? I don't know. I mean, it is way too early to me to actually think they can win a playoff series. I always like maybe David Martinez, and a lot of people were like, oh, why couldn't they get, like, there's still people are still mad that Dusty was fired. I'm like, I like Dusty Baker. I think he was a really good manager. Some would say maybe he's on the tippy toes of being in the Hall of Fame, but some would say that's a situation. But I just don't think he was ready to get that over the hump. I don't think if he had a third year, I don't think they would have getting over the hump. But I think maybe David Martinez is right in aspects. They don't worry about everything, just play your game. Maybe they might actually pull through. Yeah, wait and see.
And on the same level of wait and see, like what do you have upcoming? Anything you wanted to post and upcoming on your side?
Well, let's see things that you wait to see. Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. I'm pretty much rewriting the script, making sure all the good stuff is there. The 360 Spider-Man game. We're going to talk about that. Hopefully, I will have it done this week. Then I can continue on. I'm going to try to do. Let's see what else I can do. I'm going to try to finish out my Ratchet and Clank trilogy. The whole Ratchet and Clank PS3 thing. Then do the movie, and hopefully maybe do the PS4 thing next year. But that's a long way to go. Also, DukeCT Lounge this Wednesday, pretty much live. We're going to be talking probably a little bit of pro wrestling and such, because it's been on the whole, everything's going on with the Raw, SmackDown, and everything else. Talk about storylines a bit, and maybe some video games supposedly. Which, if you want to talk about some video game stuff, it's apparently EA is in serious trouble, which I probably will talk about, and don't mind, but there will be bounce of laughter if you don't mind the laughter of EA completely crumbling and such. Maybe Disney will buy EA, and the two companies will just crumble each other, and it will implode. It will just everything just will implode, and then all the IPs will be free and everything else.
In the meantime, myself, like I said, the next TV Trash should be posted next Monday. Will be available to all Patreon supporters, I believe, by this coming Friday. Rowdy Live will be back. Should be back this coming Sunday evening. We'll continue playing Super Mario Galaxy. Won't have a Friday live stream this Friday, as I will definitely be at seeing the Rangers against the Astros. But I should have the Friday stream back next week. We'll get back to Metroid in that level. And like I said, hopefully I'll do slightly better than I was doing to Norfair last Friday. In the meantime, I think that's pretty much gonna do it. I'm gonna start getting ready to switch over.
By the way, before you get, I am gonna be back live streaming Xenoblade Chronicles. Yes, I'm gonna be doing that hopefully on Friday. If you're not gonna be there, I will be taking that spot if things go according to plan, which look like it will. I'll be doing a live stream of Xenoblade Chronicles, and hopefully you will hear me just play the RPG that is so long and wondering why did I pick this instead of picking something short and memeable.